Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Grow Through It podcast. My name is Julia, and today I'm sharing all of my highs, lows, and lessons of 2024 and what I'm still working on. I shared in episode 12 all the ways I prepare for the new year, and journaling about these things was one of them. So I thought I would go more in depth about these things and reflect with all of you on my 2024 year. I hope this inspires you to make your own list of highs, lows, and lessons, as it can really help you see everything you accomplished and highlight anything you want to work on. When I made my list, I was happy to see that I had so many highs and only a few lows, although some of those lows were very intense. However, it was still really uplifting to write out all the great things that happened this year. I think sometimes we focus on the difficult things we are dealing with, and sometimes it's hard to see the positives. Especially because I have been going through a lot the past few months, I haven't been as optimistic as I normally am. But writing out all my highs for this year really helped me see that I did have a great year despite the tough times. So let's start with my highs of 2024. I think one of the things I am most proud of is completing 75 hard. I've said this before, but I honestly never thought I could do it until I decided to go for it. I think all of the things I have learned over the years and the encouragement from my friends and family helped me realize how much I am capable of. So completing 75 hard was definitely a high for me. Because of 75 hard, I also became the fittest I've ever been. I finally started to become happy with how my body looked, and it helped me stay motivated to keep going. If you didn't know, I am a gymnastics coach, and we had a ton of competitions to go to this year. I had so much fun attending these, and I learned a lot. Also, even with me going to these competitions and traveling and staying in hotels, I still completed 75 hard since I was doing the program at this time. So competition season was another high for me. I also got a couple promotions at work and did a course for work that I've been waiting to do for a while now. This year, I also got to travel to Ontario and meet Paul's friends and family, which definitely was a highlight of my year. It was great to see where he grew up and meet the people he talks so much about. We had such a great time there, and we got to attend his friend's wedding, which was absolutely beautiful. We attended a few other weddings this year as well, and all of them were so much fun. One of the weddings we went to was actually my brother's wedding, and it was so special to see him and my sister-in-law, who I'm also very good friends with, finally get married. It's really nice when Paul gets to spend time with my family too, since both of our families live in other provinces than us. Earlier this year, my best friend also had her baby. He is so sweet, and I love spending time with them. My sister also had another baby this year, who I have not had a chance to meet yet, but I will be meeting her next week. I got to spend a lot of time with kids this year, as many of my friends and family have kids. I always love going home and spending time with my nieces and nephew. Being an aunt really is the greatest gift. So spending time with all the kids and my friends and family has been a huge highlight for this year. I also made a couple of new friends and reconnected with old friends this year, which I'm super grateful for. Some fun things I did this year was hiking, going to a ton of yoga classes, which I hadn't done in a really long time. I tried bouldering for the first time, went camping, and went to a couple comedy shows. I loved trying new things and doing things I genuinely enjoyed doing. Another major high from this year was attending the Women's Festival. This festival made me feel so safe and at peace, and I learned so much from it. I have never experienced anything like it before. The environment there was just so incredible. I let go of a lot that I was holding on to. I dove deeper into my traumas, and I learned a lot about myself and new ways of thinking. I want to go to this festival every year because I just had so much fun and I didn't want to leave. I also got 2 new tattoos there, which I love. This year, I also got new Reiki clients and got to do Reiki on my regular clients, and I had such cool experiences with them. I loved getting the opportunity to do Reiki on new clients, and I'm grateful for each and every experience I had with Reiki this year. I also got to take myself out on dates this year. This was something I was nervous about, but I honestly had such a great time and learned more about myself. It got me out of my comfort zone, and I was able to see what I like and don't like. I want to do more solo dates next year because I think they are really beneficial and help you have more self-love. Loving myself more has definitely been a major high for me this year. Another thing that happened this year was we had to move to a new house. I had just moved in with Paul last October, so it hadn't even been a year of living together before we had to move again. This was my fourth time moving in 4 years, so at first I was not happy about it. But the house we live in now is so much better. We have a lot more space, we have a backyard, driveway, and a basement for our home gym. I also really like the area, and it's closer to both of our works. So this is actually a lesson I learned this year. I was really stressed about having to move and finding a place, but it all worked out in the end, and worked out even better than I thought it would. Lastly, although I'm sure I missed some highs, was I started this podcast. It's something I've been wanting to do for so long, but I was always afraid or told myself no one would want to listen. But I truly have so much fun making this podcast, and I can see all the listeners I have each week. The feedback I get and seeing the number of downloads and listens helps inspire me to keep going. I am so grateful for every single person who listens and supports me, so thank you so much for helping me keep going. So again, I'm sure I missed some highs from this year, but I'm truly so grateful for every person I've encountered and all the experiences I had in 2024. Moving on to some of my lows of this year. There isn't a lot, but most of them are quite heavy and took a bit of a toll on me. However, like I've said before, I believe everything happens for a reason, and there are always lessons you can learn from the hard times. I had a couple minor injuries this year, like my knee and shoulder. These obviously weren't ideal, but in the grand scheme of things, not a huge deal. They did prevent me from doing some activities I really enjoyed or wanted to do, but again, not a huge deal. My car accident, however, has impacted me a lot, both physically and mentally. I am still dealing with back and neck injuries from it, and probably will be for a while. If you listen to the episode I did about my car accident, you will know more in depth about how it's affected me, but I think the biggest thing is not being able to do my normal routine, especially working out and going for walks. I haven't worked out since the day of my accident. I worked out before it happened, and this is the longest I've ever gone with no physical activity ever in my life. It has been really difficult as one of my passions is being physically active. This has affected my mental health a lot. After the accident, I really wasn't in the best place mentally, so I wasn't showing up as my best self, and although I'm still not in the best place, I'm not letting it affect me as much, and I'm a lot more happy and more myself. I also am getting better, but I still am very fearful of driving and other people driving. So this whole thing has definitely been a low for me, but again, I have learned a lot from it, and I'm trying to look at the lessons and still be in a place of gratitude for being okay. In addition to this, some of my family members had some health issues this year, which has also been really tough on me. I don't want to go into detail for their privacy, but it has been really tough to deal with. I have been struggling with it, but again, I'm trying to remain hopeful and grateful. So again, not too many lows. I'm sure I thought things were lows at the time, but after they passed, they clearly weren't as big of a deal as I thought. I think also when you go through really hard things, the small stuff doesn't seem to matter as much. From these lows and also from some of the highs, I have learned a lot of lessons this year as well. The first one I learned is that even though the situation may be really hard at the present time, everything will pass, and there are always lessons you can learn from those experiences. It's so important to find these lessons and be grateful for them. This can be hard in the moment because the emotions of the situation can be very intense, but it is something you can remind yourself when you're going through tough times. Think back to when you were going through something hard from a year or more ago. Do you even think about that situation still? Probably not. Everything will pass and it will all work out in the end. I talked about this in the episode about the accident, But another lesson I learned is that nothing in life is guaranteed, and you need to be grateful for what you have always and live life to the fullest while you can. Being in a place of gratitude can do wonders for your mental health. It shows you all the wonderful things you have in life and puts things into perspective. It can also be a great manifestation tool. For example, even if you don't have a ton of extra money, being so grateful for the money you do have can attract more money to you. Plus, you'll feel better about your financial situation. Another lesson I learned is that it's okay to ask for help. These past few months, I've definitely needed more help than normal. With the accident, I now need more help at work because I can't move equipment. I also need help at home sometimes too. Paul has to help me carry groceries in. I'm really not used to asking for help, especially from people I'm not super close to, like my coworkers, but I've had to learn to be okay with this. And sometimes I do still struggle to ask for help. And I actually just aggravated my back at work because I didn't want to not help my coworkers move something. So I helped even though I knew I shouldn't have, and now I'm paying for it. But I definitely learned my lesson with that and have to be okay not pushing myself past my limits. I also went back to therapy recently because I needed help navigating my emotions, especially around the accident and my family's health issues. So not only am I asking for help with physical things, but I'm also asking for emotional help too. I also learned this year that it's okay to say no and set boundaries. This has been something I've been working on for a very long time. My previous therapist and I worked on boundaries a lot because honestly, I really didn't have any. But I feel like this year I was able to set good boundaries with people and say no when I needed to. I started asking myself if I genuinely wanted to do something, and if the answer was no, most of the time I wouldn't do it. I think this helped me have a better relationship with myself because I feel like in a way I wasn't being respectful to myself and my needs previously by doing things I didn't want to do. But now that I listen to myself more, I am able to say no and show myself the respect that I deserve. Obviously, I can't do this all the time because I just hurt my back at work, so I clearly wasn't sticking to my boundaries, but I am getting way better at it. Although I have learned a lot and feel like I've grown as a person, there are definitely some things I'm still working on, and there really always will be. If I want to continue to grow and evolve, I will constantly be working on myself. I wanted to share a few things I am currently working on. So, even though I am setting more boundaries and saying no more often, I still need to work on using my voice in the moment. Sometimes people make comments to me that make me feel bad, and often I don't say much about it. I actually just spoke to my new therapist about this. I think I know people's intentions are good, and I never want to make them feel bad for hurting my feelings, but I also know that my feelings are equally as important as theirs, and if my feelings are hurt by their words, I should voice that. I've always been very good at standing up for other people, but I've struggled with standing up for myself, and that is something I really want to work on. The next thing involves my body image and my relationship with food. After 75 Hard, I was really starting to feel more confident in my body, but since the accident and not being able to work out, I'm not feeling as confident. So, loving my body is something I am constantly working on. My relationship with food is also something I need to improve. It's definitely a lot better than it was, but I want to be at the point where I don't feel guilty about having a treat and finding more of a balance. When I am consistent with my workouts, I definitely eat a lot healthier and feel better overall. So I'm noticing since I'm not able to do that, my food triggers have been a bit worse. I mentioned earlier that I have gone back to therapy so I can learn how to deal with my emotions better, and this is also something I am continuously working on. I think I spent a large part of my life being very emotional and crying a lot and being anxious, that now I want to just bury those emotions because I don't want to deal with them anymore. I think therapy and starting EMDR will really help me release the things I am still holding on to, and I will be able to better deal with my emotions about things that are happening in the present. In relation to this, I am also working on dealing with my triggers. For example, people yelling, especially men, can be very frightening to me. I go into freeze mode and I don't know what to do. I get very panicky. So I'm still working on dealing with these triggers, and again, I think EMDR will be very helpful for this. On a lighter note, I am also still working on not caring what others think of me and not comparing myself to others. I think a lot of people struggle with this, and honestly, with the way the world is now with social media and everything, it's hard not to. Sometimes I truly don't care if others are thinking negatively about me, but other times it really hurts. I would like to just focus on myself more though and not have these thoughts as often. Lastly, I am working on balance. I sometimes find it difficult to balance work, hobbies, household duties, relationship, friendships, and any other activities that I do. Even now, with not being able to do my normal activities, I'm still going to appointments almost every day, so that has been keeping me really busy when I'm not at work. Sometimes I find myself really distracted by all the things I have to do for myself that I don't focus as much on different relationships in my life, and vice versa too. If I focus too much on the relationships in my life, sometimes I neglect the things I have to do for me. So finding that balance is something I am striving to accomplish. So that has basically been my 2024 year. Lots of highs, definitely some lows, and many lessons along the way. Honestly, talking about all these things and being more vulnerable and open about my struggles has been very therapeutic for me, and I hope it can show you that even through hard times, you can always find the light and learn from the experience. I also hope this episode encourages you to do your own reflection. It was so nice talking about all the incredible things that happened this year and helped me be more in a place of gratitude about my year. I truly am so grateful for this year, and I'm excited to see what 2025 brings. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and if you got anything out of it, it would mean so much to me if you would rate and review this podcast. If you know of someone who may benefit from listening to this episode, please share it with them. As always, if you have any questions or want to chat more about what I spoke about today, feel free to message me on Instagram at growthroughit.pod. Thank you again for listening, and remember that you are worthy. I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and holiday break. See you next time.